Our opening words are from Unitarian Universalist minister and military chaplain, Major George Tiger, United States Army. Memorial Day is not to be celebrated. It is to be observed, scrutinized, and witnessed on behalf of the true witnesses of our human failure to love our neighbor as ourselves. They are ghosts now, haunting lives with the gift of remembrance, so that we will not forget their living, but even more, that the grief of remembering will create in us a yearning for peace that will stir us to action. We have a last-minute addition to today's service. I direct your attention to the front of the sanctuary where there is a setting, a Memorial Day remembrance setting. Lisa Rao, who served in the United States Marine Corps for 27 years, will tell us about the symbolism of this setting.
The small table represents one service member's lonely battle against many foes. A white cloth shows a service member's pure heart when answering our country's call to duty. The empty chair honors service members who are not here with us today. An upside-down glass signifies the meal that won't be eaten. The lemon slice tells of a captive service member's bitter fate. A black napkin stands for the sorrow of captivity. The grains of salt on the plate illustrate the tears of families awaiting a service member's return. A red rose in a vase tied with a red ribbon conveys our hope for return of the missing. A white candle expresses our eternal wish for peace. Private First Class Bruce W. Carter was posthumously awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor, our nation's highest and most prestigious personal military decoration. When a grenade landed between him and his troops, PFC Carter threw his body on that grenade, knowing the outcome as he did it. On August 7th, 1969, 19-year-old Bruce Carter gave his life to save the lives of his fellow Marines. His mother said, "Dying for freedom isn't the worst thing that can happen. Being forgotten is." It is right and fitting that we remember those who died in service to our country on this and every Memorial Day.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the entire congregation, I welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Shenandoah Valley. I am Dana Crone, your worship associate, and one of the speakers for today's service. We wish to acknowledge we are on the traditional lands of the Shawnee and Manahoac tribes who lived in this area prior to the arrival of European settlers who then took the land for their own. We come together each Sunday morning as a community of seekers, seekers of what is important in our lives, seekers of understanding in the face of uncertainty and loss, seekers of forgiveness for our shortcomings, seekers of gratitude for the unexpected gifts we receive from all around us. We gather in awe of the beauty of nature and the mysteries of the universe. But most importantly, we come together as seekers of a community of love and empowerment, celebrating our search for truth and meaning in our daily lives. Today's service and message are a joint effort by the co-chairs of the building committee, Charlie Holbrook and me. Charlie and his wife Kim became members here in 2022. I've been a member since 2019. Charlie and I have been co-chairs of the building committee since early 2024. It has been challenging, but also satisfying as we see things being accomplished. Charlie proudly served 6 years in the United States Navy. Kim's father served in the Army in World War II, and her mother was a civilian attached to the War Department in military intelligence. Kim and Charlie are also active with Quilts of Valor, an organization dedicated to giving comforting and healing quilts to service members and veterans touched by war. My father was 20 when he was drafted into the Army for World War II and headed to the Philippines from his small town in West Virginia. Almost 50 years later, my brother enlisted in the Army and served multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. My Uncle Norman died in Vietnam. I'm sure many of you have similar stories of how war has affected your lives. Now, as Charlie comes forward to light the chalice, let us all say together, here and online, the words for lighting our chalice. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, to share. And I invite you to join with us as we say our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth and freedom, and to help our neighbor. To these ends, we covenant one with another. Our opening song is in the Teal hymnal, number 1025. 1025 in the Teal hymnal, When Will the Fighting Cease? Elaine will play it through once, and we will sing it twice. Please stand in body or spirit as we sing. That was a tough one. Now it is time for a time for all ages. Linda?
Good morning again. So this is a little different for me. There are no screens, there's no book, but there's something nice that Dana found from the UUA concerning this day. Let me just say that at the end of my reading, there will be a pause and some music will come after, so it's a time for your reflection. Think of where you feel safe and at peace. What's the signal that tells you it's okay to be at peace? For people in the United States military, there's a special signal that says you're okay and you're at peace. It's a melody called taps. And it's only 24 notes long. It was composed by a general in the Civil War and his bugler. It's hard to remember how important bugle calls were in the military once upon a time. In the days before radio, bugle calls were the only way military units could communicate to groups over a large area. In the 1860s, the end of the day was important. If there was time and peace enough to play taps, that was a signal that the camp was relatively safe. It meant that you were not under attack. It meant that there were no enemy soldiers to worry about. To a camp of soldiers, the notes of taps meant that unless you were on duty, you could close your eyes and sleep in peace. They say that the first time taps was played at a service for fallen soldiers also took place during the Civil War. In those days, the traditional military salute was, as it still is, the firing of a 3-round volley of rifles. But this one time, they say, was after a long battle, when finally a ceasefire had been called, and both sides had stopped to bury their dead. In one camp, as the work ended and the memorial service began to take shape, the soldiers knew that the sounding the artillery salute might be taken as a return to fighting and not as a sacred memorial. Someone had the idea of sounding a bugle, and that sound would never be taken as an aggressive act of war. Taps came to mean the same thing. It meant the safe and quiet end to the day. Time to rest, time to turn the lights out, to let their eyes close, and as best they could to be at peace. That's what taps means. It's like a powerful prayer. We try to make our congregation a place where people can feel safe and at peace. We work outside of these walls to create a community like that too, a world where everyone feels at peace in their neighborhoods and their towns. This weekend, many people in the United States are remembering and honoring all those who have died while serving in our military. So you might hear taps again. If you do, maybe you can stop what you're doing and think of those soldiers and let taps remind you that they're now at peace. Thank you.
And now we will sing and the children that are here out. Someone start it because. Oh, now in peace, may the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Thank you. Thank you, Linda. There are two purposes of today's service: to honor and respect the sacrifices made by the members of our military through the years, and to address the reality of ongoing conflicts in our society, conflicts that are sensitive and emotive, conflicts that challenge our freedoms, which they fought to establish and maintain. Memorial Day is a federal holiday in the United States for honoring and mourning U.S. military personnel, both men and women, who died while serving in the United States Armed Forces. The first national observance of Memorial Day occurred on May 30th, 1868. Back then, it was known as Decoration Day. The holiday was proclaimed by Commander-in-Chief John John A. Logan of the Grand Army of the Republic to honor the Union soldiers who had died in the Civil War. This national observance was preceded by many local ones between the end of the Civil War and Logan's declaration. Many cities and people have claimed to be the first to observe it. However, the National Cemetery Administration, a division of the Department of Veterans Affairs, credits Mary Ann Williams with originating the idea of strewing the graves of Civil War soldiers, Union and Confederate, with flowers. Official recognition as a holiday spread among the states, beginning with New York in 1873. By 1890, every Union state had adopted it. The world wars turned it into a day of remembrance for all members of the U.S. military who fought and died in service. In 1971, Congress standardized the holiday as Memorial Day and changed its observance to the last Monday in May. Today, many people visit cemeteries and grave sites on Memorial Day to honor their loved ones or even strangers who died for our country. Volunteers place American flags on the graves of military personnel in cemeteries. As we honor this day of observance, we are acutely aware of conflicts in the world that threaten our freedoms. These conflicts can result in war, violence and danger, cause death and destruction, make us feel vulnerable, and rob us of our peace of mind. You know all about this. You know about Gaza and Israel, about Russia and Ukraine. You know about Black hate, LGBTQ hate, Asian hate, immigrant hate. You know about political hate. You know about mass shootings in schools, movie theaters, malls, concerts, synagogues, churches. Through all of this, we try to make our congregation a place where people can feel safe and at peace. As our covenant affirms, we try to be a place where people feel spiritually safe to seek the truth in freedom. The covenant also affirms we want people to be emotionally safe here, for love is the spirit of this church. But we also need this to be a place where people feel physically safe. A third affirmation of the covenant, to dwell together in peace. UUs have a long history of supporting nonviolence and responding to conflicts in ways that de-escalate. However, as a liberal beacon in our community, we would be naive to ignore the potential for threats to our safety and security, especially in a contentious election year. At the direction of the Board of Directors, the Building Committee arranged for a review by the Frederick County Sheriff's Department to make safety and security recommendations for our church. The Building Committee and Worship Committee thought a Sunday service would be the best opportunity to communicate and inform as many people as possible about these recommendations. The Board of Directors has already heard these recommendations and supports them, and the Endowment Committee has approved a grant for the majority of the cost, about $2,000. Now, Charlie will communicate these recommendations to the congregation.
Good morning, everyone. On March 13th of this year, Sergeant Ellinger and a team conducted a security and safety assessment of our church building and grounds. They are part of the Frederick County Sheriff's Department. Can't hear it? Is that better? Okay. Sorry about that. Dana, Robert, and I were part of their security walk around that they had, and we took notes. Plus, they also agreed to send us a final report, which we have received. Sergeant Ellinger said that if there is an emergency, we're to call 911. not the local police departments. The Frederick County Sheriff's Department is considered to be the primary law enforcement response agency in this area. Middletown and Stevens City police departments, along with the state troopers, can also respond to any emergencies that we have. The Middletown Fire Department and the Stevens City Fire Departments are considered our fire and rescue primary response teams. He also said that there are other churches and organizations in our area that have been going through the same concerns that we have, so they've been working closely with them to do assessments on their facilities and the way they have their gatherings. So we're not the only ones facing this. Sergeant Ellinger could not make it here today to go over these recommendations with us, so I have taken on the task of taking the final report and breaking it down to give you a listing of what their recommendations were, some of the things we've been doing to take on these recommendations, and then to answer any questions afterwards that you might have about them. The 4 areas that I've broken down, first is what we call improve the line of sight. Line of sight is being able to better see what's going on around you, see who's coming and going, to reduce the number of places that a person could hide outside of our facility here. So the recommendations included clearing and or lowering vegetation out here in the Memorial Garden, clearing and or lowering vegetation around the RE wing of our facility, removing branches from trees along the driveway coming in here from the highway so we can better see people coming. Move the pride flag to one side of our porch. It was in the center out there, making it difficult to see out along the driveway. Keep bulletins and flyers from the front windows of the narthex. Keep the easel from in front of those windows, and also keep it away from in front of the fire extinguisher and the AED that's out in the narthex. We've gone through these recommendations and have completed most of them, except for the removal of branches along the driveway coming into our church. This is still to be discussed and determined if and any that may need to be removed. They say it should be up to an eye level if possible. That's still being discussed. The next area is exterior security. Exterior security involves enhancing our current security measures that we have around the church, because we do currently have security lighting and cameras. But they suggested adding additional solar-powered motion detected lights, adding additional security cameras, and reorganizing our current security monitoring system to incorporate them. Ensure that all exterior door hinge pins are secure from easy removal. It was a surprise to everyone that all of our exterior door hinges are on the outside. But they are supposedly designed so that you cannot easily remove these pins. And that was being assessed. Number all exterior doors for quicker response for the emergency responders. Add 911 signage, which includes our street address, the church entrance on Highway 11. This is to help the emergency responders find our location. Currently, our address is only on the outside of our building here. Lock up ladders. Lock the front doors and have a designated person monitor the front entrance and security cameras during Sunday services or large church activities, and ensure that the front entrance is locked during smaller church activities. With these, we've put in for and have approval for an Adams grant to procure additional signage, lights, and cameras. The ladder that was under the RE wing and the step ladder that was on the side wall of the Shabin out behind us here have all been moved out to the garden Shabin. We're still evaluating the best way to ensure that the door hinge pins are secure. We are discussing how to meet the need of having a designated person to monitor security cameras during church activities. If there is sufficient interest among the members to volunteer for this, it could become a rotating assignment among a team. The third area is interior security. The interior security involves enhancing security measures inside the church to make things more difficult for any run to disrupt our church activities and to slow down their entrance into the building. These included things like adding mirror-tinted laminate to all of the ground-level windows in the sanctuary and narthex. This is to make it harder for someone on the outside to look in to see where people are located, yet still allow people on the inside to see out, to see what is happening. It also makes the windows harder to break. Add mirror-tinted laminate to the sanctuary doors. This is to make it harder to also see inside the sanctuary from the narthex, and makes those glass on those doors harder to break also. Add window blinds to the windows in the classroom doors. Add fire extinguishers to every classroom and office. The fire extinguisher can be used not only for fire suppression, but can be used as a defensive weapon. With these recommendations, we are purchasing additional fire extinguishers with our Adams grant. The use of window tint and blinds is still being evaluated. The fourth and final area covers security, communications, and drills. This section of the report covers how we prepare for and respond to emergencies that may be occurring here. First, develop a security and safety team to update and develop emergency plans and procedures. Coordinate and conduct periodic drills with members of the congregation. Improve first aid supplies and their locations, and evaluate any other ideas and suggestions to better improve our church security and medical responses. This would include CPR training and training on how to use the AEDs. Also, add a walkie-talkie system to improve communications between people here in the sanctuary, the RE wing, and the library during emergency conditions. Provide active shooter training to staff and congregation, anyone interested in it. This can be provided to the Sheriff's Department at no extra cost, or no cost to us. With this, Kathy Cretier has been working with us to enhance our first aid supplies, to better locate these supplies, and working to help come up with ways to train the congregation in their location and their use. If there's anyone else here who would like to be part of a security and safety team, please see Dana and myself later on. We are also evaluating inter-church communication options and any safety or security training options. But as a note, have any of you noticed any changes that we have made to the sanctuary? Okay. Dana and I have installed a sample of this mirrored window tint to a set of windows here in the sanctuary so you can see how it blends in or not. I see several pointing now, so you've found the set of 4 windows that we have applied a sample of window tint to, just to see how noticeable it might be to anyone. Also, we invite you that if after the service, if you want, go out to the Memorial Garden and take a look to see how it appears on the outside. It is extremely difficult to see in from out there, but yet we seem to be able to see pretty well from here. So that pretty much is the update that we had received from the Sheriff's Department. If anyone would like a copy of the actual final report, we do have it and can make it for you if you wish. But now, Dana and I are available if anyone has any questions they would like to ask of us.
No questions? So again, oh, yes, sir.
Wasn't sure if you said inter-church or intra-church communications.
Inter.
What churches would those be?
Well, I'm sorry, intra. Intra, so just communication in between different parts of the building. So, for example, we're all here, but there's also someone in the library right now and someone in the RE wing. So they're recommending a quick way to communicate without having to fumble with your cell phone because, you know, how that goes when you're nervous. And so a quick way to communicate among the different locations within the church. Yes, Sandra? Yeah. Can you get a microphone, please?
Thank you. I was just wondering about the timing. Are we thinking about changes that we'll make over the next year in developing these different plans?
Well, we would like to get them done sooner rather than later because,
Okay, so it might be a matter of a few months or something?
correct,
Okay.
because we do have the funding. And now, we've communicated it to the board, we've communicated it to the congregation. We have the go-ahead to proceed. It's a matter of procuring the items and getting them installed. And then making some other decisions about how to handle, for example, blinds on the RE classrooms. They would be, you want to be able to see into the classrooms if you have children in there when there's not an emergency. But if there is an emergency, they need to be able to shelter in place, pull the blinds so no one can see in. So things like that, we still have to kind of work out. Over here, Claire. Oh, I'm sorry. Vicki?
Yes. So I'm wondering when the doors would be locked and in what times. We have choir practice, at night.
Right.
And then are the doors locked after we start service on Sunday or?
That's
Just
the
curious about
recommendation, that
all
once
that.
the service starts, the doors are locked and that someone's monitoring the door and the security cameras. As far as something like choir practice, once everyone was here, I would lock the door. And then when you're done, make sure it's locked when you leave. We do need to do a little work on the front door as well to try to make sure that it latches better.
I feel like the coating on the windows, on the sanctuary windows, that makes sense. But I would hesitate to put it on the windows into the narthex and between the narthex and the sanctuary. Just, that seems very intimidating to someone who wants to come to church and doesn't really, is coming for the first time and they can't see into the narthex, they can't see into the sanctuary. I think there has to be a balance between being a welcoming place and being a safe place. I don't know exactly what the balance is, but I feel uncomfortable with
And I don't
that.
know how to answer that question or who makes that decision.
Yeah, as it was, these were just, primarily global recommendations that they made for us of things they suggested we look at doing. And then it's up to us to decide how many of these that we put in place. And the tinting is one that we're still evaluating, just how much would be comfortable to work with here, or have here.
I was just thinking when she was talking that one way to handle that would perhaps even to put a sign outside that says, transparency. Well, I guess not transparency, but that would say, we welcome you. We're really glad you're here. We just have had to implement some security stuff. It would just be a simple way to handle it.
Well, actually, there's been a couple suggestions, and I know Mary's about to raise her hand, but she had mentioned just before this, or not Mary, it was Gary, at a church that he had seen recently where they actually had a vehicle outside that had the word security on the side of it, just to give whether or not it was there, he didn't know, but the idea that we have possibly security on site. And
That was not in the sheriff's report.
That was just a total separate observation, or even along the lines of adding, another part that wasn't there was adding signs saying that we're under video surveillance, just to indicate that we have security measures up here.
I was mainly talking about we still give the message that we're welcoming in addition to that.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Very.
I'm just wondering, what happens at night with the window covering and the lights are on inside and it's dark outside? Do we know? I'm just curious.
I've not looked at that. We can do that.
Just wondering.
Yeah, good question.
Number one, I think this is a really great presentation, and that the board had tasked the Building and Grounds Committee with getting this done, and they got it done. This is the beginning of a discussion that we need to have. But there'll be, I'm sure, lots more ideas about how we can deal with the recommendations that we have, such as we've already heard. So let's think of this as the beginning of a discussion, and maybe before the end of the summer, get together again and decide exactly when we're going to finalize exactly what we want to do about the security of our building.
So Wayne, what would be the venue for that? Would that be a town meeting or town hall meeting?
Maybe after service, maybe.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'm Judy Miller. I was sitting here thinking that we're facing that direction, and we really can't see anybody coming in the driveway. We're really over here. Has there been any thought of rearranging the sanctuary so that we can have people looking almost all directions?
That has not been put forth. I think the suggestion for how to handle that was to have someone monitoring in the narthex and monitoring the security cameras during the service.
Will that be enough, though? Security cameras only can go so far, and maybe have more than one person would be better.
Yeah, it's something we'd have to take a look at. I do know that at least one other Unitarian church has volunteers from the church that actually sit in their narthex and monitor comings and goings. Another church that my wife Kim and I've been to actually have hired personnel, security personnel, that just watch over things while the service is going on. So they're all things that we're still looking at, discussing, and trying to come up what be the best way for us.
And there has been a lot of discussion about the number of volunteers that this church has. So this would be another volunteer endeavor that people would have to sign up for.
As a greeter, I've often thought that one of the greeters could just stay in the back. I do that.
Right.
I don't know that I'm doing any good, but I sit back there and I watch, in case somebody comes in late.
I guess I just feel like the greeters would have to agree to that responsibility if they haven't already.
Yeah, well, I do.
Yeah, I know. Thank you, Nick. You can be a greeter every Sunday. We have one camera back here. Right now, nowhere. Yes, we would have it set up probably on an iPad or something like that. So her question was, where are the cameras being monitored? And they're not currently being monitored. So we would set that up probably on an iPad. So whoever was in charge of that would have the iPad and could scroll through all the different cameras. Robert, did you? They can do it on the phone. They can do it on the phone, yes. Smaller pictures. I can't see.
I'll volunteer to sit out in my truck with a security sign on my truck, and I can watch the service on my phone. I mean, how easy is that? And that is going to be the biggest deterrent in my mind, is if somebody's right out front watching the entrance. I'm guessing that's how people are going to. Anyways, sign me up for that.
Okay.
I'd like to say something about the reflective laminate that is on there. We had our Stitchers meeting here on Friday, and not a single person noticed it. I don't think. Mary, did we? No. Okay, I did. And then I went outside and I looked, and I cannot see in because it's reflecting. So I think it's probably one of the best deterrents we have. Even though we love our windows, it doesn't have a big impact. And I know we do a lot of artwork in here, but as you can see, it's pretty darn good. But it would be the lower windows all the way around, which I think is important to say because the back area is not being monitored at all right now. And also, Dana and Charlie spent about 4 hours just trying to figure out the method on getting this laminate on. I'm really proud of them. And thank you so much. You guys are doing a great job. I'm biased, but I'm grateful to be safer.
Hi, I'm Kim Lorigan, and I really applaud you guys for doing all of the things you're doing to keep us safe. But I would like to remind everybody that our first line of defense is us. Just being aware, situationally aware. When we see new people come in, greet them and talk with them. If we see something, say something. And it seems really simple, but there's no security camera that's going to keep us safe. We're the ones that are going to do that. So just a reminder that we're all in this together.
Okay, moving on. We will now receive an offering to sustain and strengthen this place, which is sacred to so many of us, a community of memory and hope, for we are now the keepers of the dream. If you are watching online, we hope you will consider making an offering through our webpage, uushenandoah.org. If you are visiting, please feel free to let the basket pass. Your presence is our gift. Thank you, Elaine. Hear these words of reflection by Unitarian Universalist Jennifer Cottrell of the Beverly UU Church in Chicago, Illinois. Each week, we bring our joys and sorrows to this community, that our sorrows may be carried with the support of others and our joys may be magnified. On this Sunday before Memorial Day, there was one great sorrow that we collectively share, the sorrow of those individuals in the armed forces who lost their lives in war. Today, we remember them and grieve their loss. We remember those who joined the armed services by choice and those who had no choice. We remember those who fought in wars with just cause and those that had no just cause. We remember those who sacrificed their lives for wars they believed in, and those who sacrificed their lives for wars they did not. We remember those who have gone missing and were never found. We remember those civilians who have died as collateral damage in wars. We remember the loved ones those lost have left behind. We pray for world leaders that they make wise choices that prevent wars. We pray for those around the world who are currently suffering the ravages of war. We pray for the peacemakers who strive for the end to many conflicts around the world. We remember, and we pray for peace. We come to the time in our service when we have an opportunity to share our joys and concerns, those personal milestones in our lives that we want to share with our gathered community today. This is a sacred time when we hold each other in our hearts and show our support by being present. Are there any visitors with us today who would like to introduce themselves? If you have a joy or concern, please raise your hand and an usher will bring you a microphone. Please speak directly into the microphone, tell us your name, and be prepared to speak briefly. And Charlie will start us off.
I do have a concern. My wife Kim and I learned yesterday that my brother-in-law of 59 years passed away due to complications from his diabetes. So we'd like to keep him in our thoughts.
Hello, I'm Jill Morning. I have two joys this morning. One, that my daughter Juliet, who was raised in this church as a child, finally got married on May the 1st. Something we thought would never happen. And secondly, my second joy is after a long, arduous year, it's finally the last week of school.
I have a joy and a concern. The joy is that my granddaughter had a healthy young baby boy earlier this week. His name is Jax, another great-grandson for me, and I'm very happy about that. And he's just beautiful. And the concern is, let's all keep Suzanne Leroux in our good thoughts. She's in the hospital today, kind of weak, and it's not an emergency, but still, let's keep her in our prayers. And thank you, Dana and Charlie, for all of that wonderful research and information about safety. It's something we need to really look at, and I appreciate everything y'all said. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Vicki Quarles, and thank you both for the great work. And I also feel sad that we even have to be doing this. And I also want to remember all the animals who were sacrificed in war. We don't think about that very often, but they have sacrificed their lives for the service members throughout our history and the world's history.
My name is Anne Sinclair Lessman, and I have a joy, and that is that Dr. Elizabeth England, our Liz, whom many of you may know from around committees around the church, ministerial search committee, but many of you may not know what a really distinguished resume. Her CV is amazing. She was just granted the status of Professor Emerita delayed because of a technicality. But there are people around the world. Her field was English as a second language and teaching of English as a second language. She's traveled all around the world. I don't know right at the moment if she is in Cairo or Budapest because there were some travel glitches. But there are people around the world who know this little tiny piece of Virginia because of Liz England. So congratulations on her finally being named Professor Emerita.
Hi, I'm Sandra Henry Stocker, and my sad news is that Elaine Gilbert, who is the wife of Michael Snyder, apparently died last night. She had a heart attack about a week earlier, so that might have been related. We were kind of close because Michael used to have a writers group that would meet at his house on weekends, and we'd write memoirs and short stories, and it's a wonderful way to share who you are and what you dream about. So I'm sorry that Elaine is gone.
Good morning, I'm Mary Haskins, and I just have two quick things. My brother-in-law continues to struggle and work towards health and getting home. He is being moved to rehab on Tuesday, and please keep your notes and letters coming. It brings them great joy to know that I am thinking of them, and of course my friends are as well. But thank you so much for everyone who has done that. It means a lot. And then secondly, Bob's not here today because he's in Hartford, Connecticut, helping Claire move into her third floor apartment with no elevator and no air conditioning. He announced last night that this is the last time he's helping the kids move, but she's been in Hartford for a month now with a new position at the Hartford Library System, helping to, I forget her role, but it's a director of directing their ESL program. And she's just really happy there, and it just, a lot of joy just to see that happiness in her face and hearing from her. But send your prayers to Bob.
I have a joy in the area of security. Most Sundays we have a dog who sits out front. Now, this is not the fiercest dog in the world, but I thought I would mention that anyway.
Pardon me, Wayne Keeler. Elaine and I had the pleasure of watching our youngest grandson graduate from high school on Thursday, and then continue the festivities on Friday with a lot of his soccer teammates and teachers and so forth showed up and had a chance to do that. He is off to college on the West Coast to USC. And it was noted when he mentioned this to some of his friends that they thought he was going to the University of South Carolina.
My name is Mark Fairbanks, and most of you don't know me because I just come here. I am a member of this church, but I come only once a month because I have another obligation to another church. But I have a joy. My daughter, Leslie, who has been dating a young man for 4 years, finally, a few days ago, he proposed. So, thank you so much.
Let us join in a moment of silence to honor these spoken joys and concerns, along with all the joys and concerns that remain silent within our hearts this morning. Now, as we sing number 123, Spirit of Life, while remaining seated, you may come forward to place a stone in our community bowl for those joys and concerns that remain unspoken today. Now, as Charlie comes forward, let us all say together the words for extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of our community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts till we meet again. Today's benediction is a responsive reading, number 577 in the Gray Hymnal. It is possible to live in peace. If someone with courage and vision can rise to lead in nonviolent action, the winter of despair can, in the twinkling of an eye, be turned into the summer of hope. It is possible to live in peace. Nonviolence is not a garment to put on and off at will. Its seat is in the heart, and it must be an inseparable part of our being. It is possible to live in peace. Nonviolence, which is a quality of the heart, cannot come by an appeal to the brain. It is a plan of slow growth, growing imperceptibly but surely. It is possible to live in peace. If a single person achieves the highest kind of love, it will be sufficient to neutralize the hate of millions. It is possible to live in peace. If we are to reach real peace in this world, and if we are to carry on a real war against war, we shall have to begin with the children. It is possible to live in peace. The future depends on what we do in the present. It is possible to live in peace. As you leave, please take a moment to greet those around you. Thank you for being here today.